Samantha from Jessama Tutorials here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to reduce canes. So we're going to be using a whole bunch of different shapes, so varying from the easiest like the rounds all the way up till the hexagon. So these are the ones that I'm going to show you how to reduce today. So I'll start with the round. Now the round, as I said, is the easiest. All you do is you have a choice of just rolling it on your work surface like this. Now while this does work, it can encourage a lot of distortion in your cane. So I find that it's best to do the most of your reducing with your rounds when it's fairly large, is to take your two fingers and your other two fingers and form almost like a box around the cane, and then squeeze while turning your cane and then slowly going down the cane. This reduces it quicker, I found, especially when you've got a hard cane. It reduces it more evenly, you've got more control, and it just does a better job than the rolling on the tile. Now, once I've gone down once, so this is a fairly hard cane. If it was a bit more fresh, it would reduce a lot quicker. So I'll just chop this off for the sake of time. So this is a fairly hard cane. It's been around for about a year or so, so it's a bit old, but you can see that it's getting reduced. So we've gone up and we've gone down using that technique. Now what you can do is you can take almost what I like to call crab claws, and then you can pinch your cane this way as well, and this can also help. And then once you feel like your cane's getting out of shape, because it can get a little bit distorted like this, it won't stay in its round shape, you can just give it a gentle roll on your tile to restore its round shape, and then go back to reducing it the way you were. And so that will restore your round shape, but you don't really want to use that to reduce it. So I'll just chop off a piece. Okay, and so here's the piece that we had. So here's the size piece that we had originally, so you can see that we've reduced it quite quickly. So that's what I like to do with the rounds. Now we'll move over to the squares. Now what I like to do and now I'm showing you how to reduce these without tools, because this is typically how I reduce my canes, because I don't make really complex canes yet, like face canes and the sorts of canes that will look disastrous if you get even a tiny bit of distortion in it. So this video is going to be based around reducing without tools. I might do some videos on reducing with tools later on, if enough of you ask. Okay, so here's a square cane, and what I like to do is just like I did with the round, I like to squish, but I just go up and down. There's no rotating. Squish up and down, and then I'll rotate once every now and then to swap my fingers, but I like to keep these corners, I mean. Okay, and that's how I'll do it in the beginning to start reducing. Then I'll bring over my roller, and resting it against my work surface, I'll roll, flip, roll, flip, roll, and so on until I have reduced. And this is how I like to reduce my squares. So you can see that's reducing quite quickly. This is a fairly new cane, so it's reducing quicker than if it was old. And you can see that the edges will distort a little bit, and that is just something that you will get if you don't have any specific tools. Teresa Pandora on Tiny Pandora Tools, I do believe, has a whole bunch of caning tools. If you want to go and get those will help, but I'm quite happy with reducing without tools. So I'll provide a link to a shop, because I'm not sure if I said it right. But there we are. So now I'll just cut off these distorted ends, because you're going to get little bits of distorted ends. And now you always want to keep these cane ends. These cane ends are actually some of the best scraps you could ever have, and to be honest, I kind of like them, because otherwise I'd have to use my good canes, because the scrap techniques that I like to use these for are so nice that I'm almost tempted to use my nice bits of cane. But there you can see we've reduced that into nice and even squares still. So that's how you would reduce your square canes. Now comes the triangles. Now the triangles are a little bit more tricky because there's no easy way of reducing these. They're going to go slowly no matter what. And these are typically used in leaf canes. I have shown a leaf cane tutorial already, and so I'll provide a link to it, but that is typically where you will encounter the triangles. And basically what you do is once you've got your cane into a triangular shape, you'll rest the flat side of your triangle on your tile, and then you'll press down. So you'll form your fingers into this shape, so it's almost like a pinch shape, and then you'll pinch the top of your triangle. Now you don't want to pinch too much. If you pinch too much, you'll be pushing up. You want to be pinching down, and this will help reduce. And then you'll flip and do the same on all three corners, going up and down your triangle cane. And now this cane is fairly old, so it's going to reduce quite slowly, but in general leaf canes will reduce, triangular canes will reduce quite slowly. It's one of the harder canes to reduce. But I can feel that this one is moving. And if you're wondering why I keep my finger over here, I find that when I'm reducing triangle canes, they like to end up with a lot of waste on the ends if you don't do this. By holding my finger here, I hold it in the direction I am pinching. And by doing that, I prevent my cane from getting distorted. So I'll remove my finger and show you what happens. So this end bows out. So that one cracked. But if I held my finger there in the direction that it was going, it will reduce, but it will stay in a nice shape. So I hope that I got that across. But you can see this one's cracking, and typically I wouldn't want to reduce canes that are this old because of the cracking. But you can see that we've got that one reduced just a little bit. There you go. So if you are making canes and you want to make a whole bunch and then you're going to be leaving them for a little while, what I recommend is starting with a nice big cane like you usually would, and then taking that cane and reducing it into either the size that you know you're going to want, or if you don't know what size you are going to want, you can reduce it into multiple sizes. So I'll bring over a cane just to demonstrate that. Okay, so here's a cane I made a little while ago, and this is my cherry blossom cane from my cherry blossom tutorial, and I'll provide a link to where you can buy that tutorial if you want. But basically the point is I started with a cane about that big, and then I reduced it down to a cane this size, and this was actually, I like this size the best, so you can see that it's not much left, but you can see that I also made other canes. Oh, excuse me, not other canes, other sizes of canes. So I'll just bring those up so you can see. And now they're all in different sizes, going down to really tiny ones. And that's basically what I like to do before my cane goes solid. So I like to do it within a week of making my cane. So here you can see how many canes you can get out of that. So I like to do that with practically all of my canes, and this is basically what you can do with reducing. You can start with a really nice large one and take it all the way down to a really tiny piece. So you can see the comparison there. And the cane that we actually started out with was like that big. Can't even fit it in the camera. So that's basically why you want to learn how to reduce. But that's just something that I wanted to mention because it can be a problem later on when your cane starts to firm up. Because as you can see with this one, you'll get cracking and all sorts of things. And there are a few ways of fixing it, but to be honest, they don't really work that well. You're still going to end up with a little bit of cracking. They'll work a bit, but it's just a lot easier to do it before your cane sets up. So I'll provide a link to Cindy Leach's video on how to revive old canes, because there's a bunch of tips in there and I really like some of them. But just before you let your cane set up, make sure you reduce it into the sizes that you want, and you'll save yourself all the trouble. But in case you do have a whole bunch of canes that have set up, I'll provide a link to that tutorial as it's very helpful for me. Okay, so now we will move on to reducing a kaleidoscope. And now this one actually confused me a lot in the beginning because I wasn't sure how I was supposed to reduce it, because I tried the pinching technique, but it just ended up getting really distorted. But after a bit of thinking and a little bit of a duh moment, because, well, duh, I figured out that if I just use my roller to flatten the top and let it rest on the bottom of my tile, flatten it, flip, flatten it, flip, kind of like we did with the square cane, it will reduce just fine. And this works really well to sharpen up your corners and all sorts of things, so it's a great way to reduce your cane. And this works really well for the kaleidoscopes. Now, a quick thing I want to mention again about reducing is, although you don't want your cane to set up, you don't want to reduce it right when it's really warm. So this one's about, I'd say this is about a month old. Yeah, about a month old. So I'm really happy with the texture of it right now. But if you tried to reduce this right when you built it, so like let's say the minute you finished building it, you'd find that it was a little bit soft, and you'd find that you'd get a lot of distortion like over here. So the outside of your cane would actually reduce faster than the inside, because the inside would be firmer than the outside. So I like to leave my canes for at least a day before I actually proceed to reducing into all the sizes that I like. And I recommend doing that as well, because it will just make the reducing process a lot easier, just as quick, and you'll end up with more cane afterwards. So just make sure that your cane is nice and firm. Had 2 days or 1 day or at least an hour to rest before you start to reduce it. And you'll just find that the reducing process is a lot easier. So that's the kaleidoscope. And so that's basically all I have on reducing canes. It's not too difficult once you practice, and everybody's going to have different techniques. You'll probably try out my techniques, find that they work okay, but as you start working with the clay, you'll develop your own ways of reducing it. So you'll just develop your own ways of doing it, as everybody's got a different way of doing it. So don't be afraid to just try and reduce it your own way. You might find that you find it easier than my way, and so try out new ways of reducing it, because it might be easier for you. And practice, because it's a really important technique when you're making canes. So I do hope that tutorial was helpful to you, and if it was, please do check the links below, as there will be links to the tutorials that I have suggested here. And if you are watching this on YouTube, I'll also have a link to my website, jessamatutorials.com there, where I have articles, places where you can send in pictures, and very soon I'll be having tutorials that are actually exclusive to my website, so check it out there, as they will not be being posted on YouTube. And as always, I hope to see you in the next tutorial. Bye for now!